how's it going? It's That Nerd Ryan here, and I waited till after I finished the new episode of Ahsoka to make this video because I wanted to make sure that my theory wasn't completely explained or completely debunked. And it turns out that kind of did neither, but kind of agreed with it in a way. So we're going to talk about, if you haven't looked at the title, the world between worlds today, and Force Ghosts. So in last week's episode of Ahsoka, we see Ahsoka meet up with Anakin and go through her final training, which is live or die. He fights her as Anakin, then she goes through, sees herself at her first battle of the Clone War, one of her first battles of the Clone Wars. I couldn't tell if it was Christophsis or not. And then her final battle of the Clone Wars being the Siege of Mandalore. Then she has to fight Anakin on the dark side. So Darth Vader, Anakin. Not Darth Vader, but Darth Vader, Anakin. And then when she finally stands up and chooses to live, Anakin reverts back to himself, says there's hope in you, or there's still hope for you, and then lets her leave. So my question today is the world between world a portal or a dimension force ghost specifically? And let me explain. So in books such as Certain Point of View and others dealing with Force ghosts, it is mentioned that they can see throughout time everything at once. And as you guys know, the world between worlds, or if you don't know, let me just explain it. The world between worlds is a pocket dimension, I guess is the best way to say it, through the Force that connects nexus points from temples to important points in history to stuff like that, all together for Force users who are lucky enough to go through it are able to appear. There's no, concrete evidence that has to do with Mortis, although I do feel it might have a connection to Mortis. We'll get into a little bit of that theory towards the end, but it would just make sense if the world between worlds has a connection to Force ghosts. Both of them being where they can see throughout time and space, and being kind of able to appear at anywhere at any moment. It's possible that Force ghosts can manipulate the world between worlds so they can bring news that they have to bring. Best example of Force ghosts appearing out of nowhere is like Obi-Wan on Hoth to communicate to Luke to go to Dagobah. Another one would be the actual end of Episode 6, or Yoda showing up on Ahch-To. Just scenarios such as that. We see in Star Wars Rebels that the world between worlds appears on temples, or on the temple on Lothal. We then see it on the Temple of Malachor during the fight between Ahsoka and Vader, where Ezra is able to pull Ahsoka out. So we know that people can walk in and out of the world between worlds. Doesn't define if it has to be a ghost or a human, but obviously if a human could do it, a ghost can do it easily. We also get to see Palpatine try to manipulate it using Force magic in the same episode. We never get to see him actually do it outside of the world between worlds, so we don't know when this time is. It could be during the Clone Wars, it could be at that exact point in time for Ezra, or it could be before The Force Awakens. I could totally see that being a thing too. But we know that Force users can manipulate the world between worlds when they're powerful. And we know that Force ghosts are the most powerful version of them all. It's stated in A New Hope that when you become a Force ghost, you become more powerful than anyone could ever imagine. We also see Qui-Gon in on Tatooine in Obi-Wan Kenobi. For that, I will explain why I brought that up. We also see him in the Mortis arc. So my theory with this, and this is a little crazy, it kind of gets into the time logic of Loki and everything like this when you think of it, so don't think too hard, but the world between worlds could be Mortis post-Mortis arc of the Clone Wars. So Mortis is literally the Force Garden of Eden, I guess is the best way to explain it for those that don't know. And it housed the Father, the Son, and the Daughter. The Father was the one to bring balance to the Force, while the Son was the dark side and the Daughter was the light side. Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan are magically pulled into it, just like Ezra being magically pulled into it in Rebels, and Ahsoka being magically pulled into the world between worlds in Ahsoka, and by Ezra I meant in Rebels. Magically pulled into it at a point in time that they need to learn a major lesson, all three of them, or all three scenarios. In Mortis, we see the daughter die, then the brother die, then the father die. And Mortis basically crumbles at that point. Anakin and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan leave that area without any memory of that happening. And the reason why we know there's no memory of it happening is Anakin is spoiled that he becomes Darth Vader and that the whole war was a ploy by Palpatine, and doesn't remember any of that. So we also learn that entering and exiting the world between worlds, your memory is a little hazy at first, then gains back. Obviously, Mortis, I believe, if I remember right, the father had help in wiping their memories on that. So obviously, it would be a little different in that spot, because Ezra does remember saving Ahsoka. Ahsoka does remember that she needs to find Ezra when she gets pulled out of the world between worlds the first time, and the second time she gets pulled out and she keeps repeating Anakin's name. Also, both are considered major nexuses in the Force. Now, could that mean that one is one side of the coin and one is the other? I don't believe so, because Mortis and the world between worlds do work a little bit similar, but not so different that it would be two different sides of the same coin. I think that Mortis turned into the world between worlds and kind of became a haven / hangout for Force ghosts. Now, does that mean that Anakin was a Force ghost in Ahsoka? I personally believe so. They don't clarify or make it known, but personally I believe he was a Force ghost, and I believe that the world between worlds, which used to be Mortis, is how Force ghosts travel to commune throughout space and time. So thank you guys for watching. I know this was a little insane of a theory. Should have got my tinfoil hat on. But yeah, so please enjoy the video. Comment below if you think that I'm on the right track, and if you like Ahsoka. Leave a like, subscribe, and of course ring that bell. It's that Nerd Ryan, signing off.